Welcome to On Scene with TFD. I'm Mike Bellamy, your host. It's been said that you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. The Tallahassee Fire Department has been serving our community for over 100 years and has a rich history. Today's show will feature several guests who are both a part of our history and have been working hard to preserve it for future generations. Maurice Majak and retired District Chief Tommy Roberts, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Mike.
Well, I don't think it gets any better than this if we're talking about TFD history, does it?
Not any better whatsoever.
Tommy, Chief Roberts, you've done over 40 years with the fire department, and so you've been such a part of that history. Maurice retired from the fire department as an inspector and has uncovered and documented and is a historian for the Tallahassee Fire Department. So I think we got good company today. Maurice, where does it begin? Well, where's our story start?
Yeah. Well, we start when we became a capital in 1824, when Tallahassee became the capital of Florida. All the buildings downtown were basically where they are now, but they were all wood frame structures, butted against each other, no separation, and they had wood shingles on the roofs. There was no fire department. Then in 1843, in May, the Washington Hall Hotel and Boarding House had a fire. It was believed it was intentionally set. Well, that was located on Monroe and Madison, and the fire headed north all the way up to Park Avenue, east to Calhoun and south to Adams, or Madison, and then west to Adams, and took out 90% of the downtown area. But even after that, there was no real fire department consistently. We had the Vigilant Fire Company, we had Hook and Ladder No. 1, Leon Hose Company, but there's no consistency until 1902.
Okay, 1902 is an important date.
Very much. That's when we can trace our history back to a continuous paid department all the way back to September 24th, 1902.
Chief, is he on target here? I know you've probably heard all these stories before about all the beginnings.
Right.
And we moved on from there. Back when we first started, it was the horses pulling the wagons. We had Tom and Jerry, 2 white horses. We had Dick and Jake, 2 of the brown horses, and 1 other, which I'll remember as we go.
Those were horses that were pulling the actual fire wagons at that time.
Absolutely, and they had the horses trained at the time. When the fire bell rang, the horses would go stand underneath the harnesses, and they could lower the harnesses right on and really get them out of the station very quick in response.
Now, Chief, were any of those firefighters working when you started with the Tallahassee Fire Department? When did you come on?
I came on in 1950 till 91. And none of those guys, the father of one of them was there. You know, I mean, Chief Coe was there, TP, the young one. His father was a chief then, but I remember him in the 40s. I mean, before I went to work there, I remember Mr. Chief Coe. But that was a little before my time, you know. But I remember where the station was. I remember where the fire station, the first station there was the old Mendelson store across from City Hall. And there was a big wood structure there that Mendelson's moved from there to around Monroe Street when they converted it to some kind of building. I don't even remember what's there. It's a Capitol parking lot now. They bought all that land and part of the Capitol complex.
So Maurice, what happens next with the timeline?
In a timeline, in 1916, we got our first motorized apparatus. It was scheduled to go to Sarasota, but they ran out of money, so Tallahassee got it instead. And by 1921, we had 3 American LaFrance pumper trucks, fire trucks, which is about the time we moved from where Station 1, the original Station was in Wayne Square, where City Hall now sits. We moved across the street to the southeast corner of Jefferson and Adams into the Marketplace building that was built in 1896. That was about 1921. Then in 1930, we changed the name from Tallahassee Volunteer Fire Company to Tallahassee Fire Department. Although we used the title before then, that was May the 1st, 1930 was the official date that we changed the name.
Right.
Then November of that last year, we had a very tragic fire. 2 warehouses were on fire down around the railroad station. They were just smoking at the time. We had one of our reserve firefighters go in, Lewin Spear. He was going to raise the door, the roll-up door, and he let the air in the building, and you know, fire needs the oxygen, here comes the air, and there was a flashover. He was severely burned, and he passed away later the same day in the afternoon. Thanks to the old timers like Ridgway Coe, they remember the stories. And Ridgway Coe, actually his dad, T.P. Coe, reached under the roll-up door when they got it up so high and pulled Lewin Spear out.
Wow.
He went home and asked his son to kneel by the bed and pray for him, for Lewin Spear.
That was important, yeah, that's a remarkable date in our history.
November 30th of 1930.
And that's our only paid firefighter we've lost.
That's right.
We've certainly.
It's the only firefighter we've lost, and hopefully it will remain that way.
Very lucky.
Exactly. So that was 1930, and we had been over to the Marketplace building as the fire station. Then in 1937, we moved up to 109 South Adams Street, where the DoubleTree is now, and the chief can tell us a little about that because he was in that station.
There you tell us about that. We've got a couple minutes before the break.
I spent about 10 or 12 years before we moved down to where it is today. Alford Chevrolet, they bought that building because we outgrew that one downtown. But it was right there in the mix of things, the city hall next door, the fire department, the police department. And of course there was a lot of activity, and the firemen, of course, back then, no air conditioning. And the building was like that sun in the afternoon. It was so hot. You go up there at night and just melt. But you had a lot of people coming by visiting. Everybody wanted to talk to firemen. And during the daytime, not so much. But late at evening at night, we would sit on the steps there in the alleyway between the city hall and the fire department. There was always a breeze there. The wind would be blowing down that alley, and that was a gathering place. And then, of course, it got to be Coe's Oak when we moved to the next one, you know, up there by the.
And that's the tree.
That's the tree that's there. That's where we stood in the evenings there, you know, the men. Yeah. But business picked up. I mean, when we moved from the downtown station, but we had 5 trucks down there, and we had 33 men when I came on board, and I was kind of unfortunate that I didn't get to be a firefighter long. Chief Levy found out that I could really handle heavy equipment when he hired me. I was driving within 3 months, but I didn't even know the streets. And I told him, I said, Chief, I'm from South Choppy. I said, and all these other guys were born and raised in Tallahassee. He said, well, I'll give you 6 months to learn them. And of course, and he did. He called me in after 6 months.
Had you?
I rode streets every day I was off for 6 months.
Chief, we're going to take a break, come right back to that and learn more about some of your experiences with the Tallahassee Fire Department. Thanks for joining us. Stick around for more On Scene with TFD.
Hey, let me help you with that there, Sparky. Sparky the dog wants to remind you that when you change your clocks, change the battery in your smoke alarms. Speaking of which, when was the last time you tested the battery in your smoke alarm? At least once a month, push the button on your smoke alarm to make sure it's working properly. Remember, test alarms for life. Hello, I'm Mike Terhune with the Tallahassee Fire Department. Did you know the chance of fires caused by candles greatly increase during the winter months? Please take care when using candles in the home. Keep lit candles out of reach of children and pets. And remember, never leave lit candles unattended in the home. When you go out,
For more life-saving tips, visit the Fire Department's website at talgov.com.
Bunny, puppy, gerbil, and kitty. They come in from throughout the city. Is your tomcat up to his old tricks? Are you sure Mama Dog is actually fixed? Help us, help us, help us get control. We've got more animals than Fort Knox has gold. You hold the key to getting pets a home. Spay neuter your pets so they don't roam. Fewer kittens and puppies in production. benefit existing animals from this reduction.
Welcome back to On Scene with TFD. Before the break, we were learning more about the Tallahassee Fire Department's rich history. We're going to return now to Chief Roberts, who was just telling us a story about your progression through the fire service and how quickly you were, I guess, found out, as they say.
As a driver, right. And now I think you have to pass tests and all this stuff. Well, Chief Levy took me on my test when he hired me, and in 3 months I was driving the lead truck out of that fire station. And I'll never forget Chief Wainwright, who was assistant chief at that time. He had not been promoted to deputy chief. He rode with me. He was there in the front seat. He says, "Boy, I want to tell you one thing. I'm not going to let you get lost, but you better not take me to the wrong fire."
Those stories still stick around. I can tell you that we hear those, the camaraderie, and that's where all that camaraderie really started, was with that generation. Now, at that time, how many stations were there?
We had 3 stations. We had the downtown, and we had downtown and the airport. That was the only station we had then. And it was just an old barrack out there from Dale Mabry that was the fire station, which I spent some time out there in my transition from private to lieutenant, you know. And there would just be 2 men out of the airport station, me and Sandy Harrell with 5 trucks. And so we had a choice of trucks.
Which one to take out?
That's great.
But I was a lieutenant then, and I not only had to drive, I had to be the command officer to fire with 1 man until someone else got there. They sent backups to all the fires. But it was interesting, you know, and but it was long days out there on that till they built when they built the new station over on the corner and got the training station and all. And it really business. They were out there all the time from downtown training, you know.
Tell me about some of the interesting fires. We were looking at some of those, and Chief said, "Heck, I was at that fire." Well,
the Florida Theater fire was on Monroe Street. It was a big fire. I mean, downtown, early in the morning, stayed there all day and night. The State Theater fire, and we had the Westcott building, the Mendelson store, the psychology building, all the big fires downtown and around town. Most of them I was there. Now on the Mendelson fire, I got called in. I was off duty, but of course, you were always on duty as a fireman. If they needed you, they called you. And in fact, in the early years, this is going back a little bit, but you had to be on call. You had to be by telephone all the time. I mean, if you was a regular, you couldn't go anywhere unless you got a replacement, somebody to stand in for you. Okay. Because it wasn't easy to get out of town, and you had to live in the city limits. When I came, they didn't hire anybody that wouldn't agree to move into the city limits, and so I did that. But then, of course, that tradition moved on out later on. But it was a full-time job all the time. What was the
Mendelson, or not Mendelson's fire, but the Westcott? There was a story about Westcott that was pretty hilarious.
Well, that Bridgeway Co. You want to tell us?
Yeah, well, it's the day we were having Sunday. I won't ever forget it. And we were having dinner, and on Sunday at the fire station, we always had barbecued chicken or steaks or something. Well, it was steaks that day. And I looked up and I could see the fire. And I said, "Oh, boy, we got a burner somewhere." And about that time, the alarm went off. And it was Westcott. And, of course, we all went out there. And, boy, when we turned on College Avenue, we had us a barn burner, as they call them. And Chief Coe was there, and we got all our lines laid out. And that's where Chief Coe got in a backfire. He got blown out. His clothes got blown off of him.
Standing in his shorts. So.
Yeah, that's right.
He and Jesse Freeman.
That's right.
But nothing but shorts. Now, this is the same Coe family that today one of Chief Tom Coe was a police chief.
That's right.
And
it was his father.
Yeah. And then his 2 sons are on the fire department.
That's
now,
right.
Right.
All the same family.
Right.
Yeah, T.P. Coe was the first one. He was chief from 1912 to 1940, April of 40.
Yeah, and you know, I noticed this, and it's a traditional that families of firemen usually follow in the
Yes.
profession of the father or grandfather.
Okay.
And then his son Ridgway came on in 1942 and stayed on the department for over 42 years. And
1984.
now Ridgway's son became the police chief and
Right.
assistant city manager.
Right.
So,
We
but two of Tom's boys are on the fire department.
on the fire department. Okay.
Right. Mike and
now,
Matt.
Mike and Matt. Now, how's in about a minute? Tell me in terms of the gear and what you were doing. How did that change? Did you see all that evolve during
We
your
had no
time?
breathing apparatus when I came into the fire department, except one tank for somebody that had electrocuted. That's the only air that we even carried on the truck. That was it. And
That's a big change.
oh, man, very.
Smoke
I had a rubber-lined fire jacket for like you'd get by to go to a football game. We didn't have any equipment then, but Chief Levy was getting it. After the war, Camp Blandon was selling off everything they had down there, you know, and anything that was surplus that we could use in our department, including trucks. He went down there and bought them. And he would bring it back, and he got boots. He got equipment from down there, old stuff, but it was good. It was an improvement over what we had. But it cost a lot to put clothes on a fireman's back. But we began to make progress then, but we rebuilt fire trucks. We double cabbed them. We were one of the first departments that I remember around in this area that had the firemen got to ride inside.
Okay, inside the cabs.
Mm-hmm. And I got shipped to the shop out there to paint. I was a painter. Painted every fire truck in this fire department because Chief Levy found out I knew how to paint. And so he used your talent. It didn't matter what it was. Yeah. So that's where we are.
And then when you left, what year was it? In
1991.
In 91, okay. And
right.
at that time, we were riding inside, no more tailboard. We used to ride on the back of the truck.
Right. Oh,
the tailboard
that's
of
right.
the truck.
That's exactly right.
And all of that changed. The equipment. Did we have the contained breathing apparatus at that point?
Yeah. When I left, we did. Yeah, we had. Everybody had one. Right. And now I think they're in the trucks when they get on. We had to strap them on when we finally got some. You had to put it on before you left the station. But there's a lot of things changed up here. You know, it's for the better. It's a much better place than it was when I really mean that. It's because of the knowledge and the experience you've gained from learning stuff. You know, education.
Now, do you still keep up with all the retired firefighters?
Oh, yes. We have a party once a year for all the retired firemen, and I try to attend every one. We have two firemen that have farms. One's in Georgia and one's here. One year we have it at Pumphrey's, and the other we have it up at Donaldson's in Georgia. And beautiful places to have it. They've spent money to build a place. You'd think you were going into a building like this to have a fireman party. But it's really nice, and everybody participates and comes. We always have a huge crowd.
Maurice, is there anything else you'd like to add about Chief's experiences in that tenure of the fire department?
No, I love just listening to him talk about the history, because I think history is so important for everyone to know the history of the department, where they came from, because then you can kind of see where you are and where you might be going.
Right. Well, thank you. Can you stick around?
Sure.
Chief, I want to tell you thank you, and you're a treasure, and we appreciate your service to not only the department but to the community. And we'll have you back on and do another show.
Okay.
Sounds
good.
Stick around. After the break, we're going to find out more about what the Tallahassee Fire Department is doing to preserve and uncover our history. See you after the break.
Hello, I'm firefighter Kathy Golke. Having smoke alarms in your home reduces the chances of you dying in a fire nearly in half. Install smoke alarms in your home and test the batteries each spring and fall. For more life-saving tips, visit the fire department's website at talgov.com.
Hello, I'm Captain Leroy James. More fires start in the kitchen than any other place in the home, and cooking fires are our #1 cause of home fire and home fire injuries. Keep a fire extinguisher handy. Don't be afraid to use it. For more life-saving tips, visit the fire department's website at talgov.com.
I miss eating dinner with my family in our own kitchen.
550 children in Tallahassee are missing the simple joys of being a kid.
I miss having my own bed. I miss having our own house.
550 kids missing the simple comfort of having a place to call home. Join the Change for Change program by simply adding a monthly contribution to your city utility account. For the cost of just a gallon of milk, you can help all our kids enjoy the simple, extraordinary things about just being a kid.
Imagine a landscape of distinct natural beauty, a place where bees and butterflies move among the blossoms and birds find food and shelter, where plants can thrive on rainfall and native soil and fertilizers and pesticides are almost unheard of. Now, imagine this place is your own Florida home. Visit plantrealflorida.org and learn how to add native plants to your landscape and bring home the beauty of the real Florida.
My mommy taught me to count. 1, 2, 3.
Character isn't developed overnight. It starts when children are small, from birth to 5. What you as a parent do now will have a profound impact on the men and women your children will become. Think about that. You are your child's first teacher, and the Early Learning Coalition is here to help. To find out how the Early Learning Coalition can support you in your role as a parent, call us at 385-0504 or visit us on the web at www.elcbigbend.org.
Welcome back to On Scene with TFD. Let's continue our discussion about the rich history of the Tallahassee Fire Department. Maurice, thank you for sticking around for another segment. And I do have to introduce Lieutenant Judy Davison to the show. You are a Tallahassee firefighter, Lieutenant, and you have been involved with capturing a lot of the history of the department with Maurice and doing some great stuff. And before we get into some more of that, I want to touch base on Maurice here for a minute. It's kind of hard to steal the show when we got a chief up here with 40 years, huh?
I tell you, you can't.
He's awesome. I wish we had a lot more time with him, and maybe we'll bring him back for another show.
Sounds great.
You have done an amazing amount of work for the department. You've authored 2 books about the Tallahassee Fire Department. You're working to keep a museum running right now. Tell me about that.
The museum is out at 2964 Municipal Way. But it's our training building, and we have both classrooms, all the walls basically. We have items in it like this hose nozzle here. This dates back to 1860. That's pre-Civil War, so that's a long time. And we also brought one of the old fire extinguishers from B.F. Keith Theater, and they were in operation from 1896 to 1924. So this is one of the oldest pieces we have, along with the hose nozzle that's out front here.
Judy, you've been out there. It's pretty neat out there, isn't it?
It is. Maurice has done a wonderful job to capture the items within the fire department that really show the things that we have to do and the changes that have been made in the department.
And if folks want to go out and see the museum, how do they make that happen?
They would contact our training division, who would set up a time for them to come and a day for them to come, because it's in the training building, and we could have classes there, so we'd have to work around that. And someone from training would escort them.
Okay, now you've got a pretty rich history in the fire service too. You worked for us for some bit. Tell us a little bit about Maurice.
Well, I retired from the Navy over 23 years, and then I went to work for City of Miami Fire Department, retired from there, went up to City of Miramar in Broward County, Florida, and was their fire marshal, retired from there, came up here, and retired from TFD. Tallahassee Fire Department.
And then took an interest in you and Judy, I think, connected. And
yeah, well, with the Florida State Archives, there's so many pictures up there, an abundance of information that you can't help but wanting to do something with it. And I saw nobody had done anything, so that prompted my first book, which was Remembering the Tallahassee Fire Department. And it's basically all pictures with captions underneath explaining the pictures. Then the second book is on William Earl Levy, Dean of the Fire Service. He was on the department for almost 51 years and 38 as the fire chief. So there was good information. I got with his sons, Bill and Rick, and his sister, Jeanette, and they gave me the personal side of him. So it's a great book. Gets his personal side and his professional side. And it's up in BarnesandNoble.com, Amazon, or Southern Yellow Pines Publishing. Make a great Christmas present.
It would. Judy, Florida Memory, what does that mean? Tell me about your involvement with some of this history and how you tie in.
Well, you know, Mike, about 2 years ago, the fire department was going through some things within the buildings and stuff, and they came over, uncovered a cache of old photos that actually was visually documenting our department. The problem was we didn't know what a lot of these photos entailed. We didn't know who was in them because a lot of them had retired. So we contacted the State Archives of Florida. It was learned that they had a digital grant or digital program which was called FloridaMemory.com. And what that does is got over 178,000 photographs in this cache of photos that's collaborating to preserve the history photographically through the state of Florida.
So not just the fire department?
Not just the fire department. It's through the entire state of Florida. Okay. And people can access that through FloridaMemory.com. And so what we learned through them, and what they were able to do for us, was there's different photographic collections within the state, within FloridaMemory.com. And one of those collections now is the Tallahassee Fire Department collection, which houses now about over 2,000 photos dating all the way back to the 1800s to present day, which visually gives you an idea of what Chief Roberts and Maurice are talking about through different years of how things have progressed in the department.
So Tom and Jerry, the horses,
they're there.
Are they in there?
Yeah.
Yes,
that's great.
They're
you
there.
get to see them for sure.
Jack was the last horse.
And Jack was the other one.
Jack was the
now,
last.
Judy, why is it important that we preserve and that we shed light on all that? Why is it important we do that?
You know, Mike, you mentioned it in the beginning. You said, you know, if we don't know where we came from, we do not know where we're going. And you know what the photos have allowed us to do is bring a connection back. Tallahassee Fire Department has a rich family root history, and we have been able to give the guys and the ladies a connection with our past, and it becomes like a progressive learning tool is what I like to call it. It's a learning tool to see where we can go, like the types of nozzles, how extinguishers have progressed, where we were from having an open cab to now having closed cabs.
The equipment.
The equipment, you know, wearing face masks versus not wearing face masks. Chief Roberts talked about having a rubber-lined jacket, where now we're issued, you know, fire-resistant gear. Just to see that progression.
Yeah, and I understand they're using now, the department uses some of those photographs and some of those things to tell a story to the new hires about pride and ownership. Well, it's such a great topic. I want to thank you both for being here to help us tell this over 100-year-old story that is the Tallahassee Fire Department. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mike.
We hope you've enjoyed learning about the history of the Tallahassee Fire Department as much as we've enjoyed sharing it with you. As always, thank you for joining us on Scene with TFD. We'll see you next time.